Hey friends, and welcome to the Creative Cast. So whether you are ready or not, the holiday season is here. Now, I am definitely in the not ready camp this year. But before we get talking about the holidays and your podcast and all those things, I just want to take a moment and acknowledge Veterans Day. Y'all know I talked about our military life before, so you know that Veterans Day means a ton to me. I just want to say a special shout out to all of the veterans out there who are listening. If you've got one in your family, please thank them for me, as well as to all my favorite veterans, my brothers and friends that my husband served with. As well as my husband, of course, my most favorite veteran. Thank you, honey. So thank you so much for everything, the sacrifices you make with your family, and each and everything that you do for our country. It is not forgotten. You were not forgotten, and it is greatly appreciated. Over the last few weeks, I have had the awesome opportunity to pop in a bunch of different mastermind and podcasting chats and being able to answer a lot of questions. And many of the questions that I've gotten recently, surprisingly, was what do I do with my podcast during the holiday season? I have a lot to share about this, so that might be a little bit longer of an episode than usual. Some of the questions I've got recently are things like, should I take a break in December? Are people still listening during the holiday seasons? Will the downloads drop? Should I repost an old episode from my archive instead of worrying about trying to do a new episode? And the answer to all of these questions is yes. So the good news is that it is your call about what you do with your show over the holiday season. That's the beauty of podcasting, right? Now, a couple things to take into consideration. Traditionally speaking, numbers usually dip during the holiday season, November, December. People are busy. We're trying to shop for Christmas presents. We're trying to get the house ready for family that's coming over or all the things, right? The flip side of that is lots of people are traveling this year. They're having quality family time. They may be feeling lonely if they're by themselves. They may just have a few more opportunities to listen to podcasts, especially as an escape or even as entertainment. In January, those numbers always go up because people are looking for new podcasts to help support them in whether it's their New Year's resolutions or their 2022 goals or whatever you want to call it. And so those numbers have a tendency to go up starting in January. Now, as far as taking a break, my philosophy is this. Do you need a break? Then take a break. It's that simple. The other thing I want you to think about are, what are your goals for next year for your podcasts, your business, your ministry, your family? Let's get into what to do with your podcast during the holiday season. So there's several things that you can do. You can do a combination of all these things. These are just some ideas for you that have worked with clients in the past. And I will be doing a combination of these things over the Christmas season because I will be traveling during the holiday season this year, during Christmas. So if you want to stick with the current podcast frequency, whether it's weekly, every other week, the first and third Tuesday, whatever it may be, totally fine. You can totally do that. Now, if you do this, I would encourage you maybe to switch it up a little bit. So if you typically do an interview, maybe do some solo episodes where it's just you talking, taking a deeper dive on a subject. Because your interview guest may or may not have time to promote and share the episode during the holiday season. They may be taking a social media break themselves. Or they just don't have the time to promote it as fresh out of the gate as you normally would like for your podcast guest to do. So let's just say you have a really, really good interview. Unless it's timely and relevant to the holiday season, you may want to push those into next year. So there's much more time to promote those types of things. So especially if let's say you're having a big name guest. I would consider really doing that in January where you know you're going to have more listeners and you know you and your guests are going to have more time to promote that episode. Now, personally, I love what my friend Allie Worthington does on her podcast. Now, what she does is she reads a chapter of her book as an episode. How smart is that, right? Usually for the last 2 episodes of the year, her shows are her reading a chapter from her book. She may take a little bit deeper dive on that. She may go into a little more depth with that particular chapter. Now, if you're an author, this is a great idea to market if you just released a book, or to give a sneak peek into your next book. So if you're currently working on a book, you're maybe launching in early 2022, you could always give like a little sneak peek of it. Personally, I think it's a great idea. The other thing is think of some short form content that you could release. Now, if your episodes tend to be a little bit longer, you may want to shorten them a little bit, considering that our attention spans are much shorter during the holiday season. We have less time to do things that we want to do. Are there any relevant seasonal topics that you could discuss on your podcast that could still be maybe evergreen? So for example, gratitude is always evergreen, right? Always super important. But really the only time we start talking about gratitude is during the holiday season. Now, I want you to ask yourself, how can you title those episodes in such a way that people might specifically be looking for those kinds of things during the holiday season? Now, I'm not talking about your regular podcast listeners and subscribers. Maybe new people who are in that, oh my gosh, my favorite podcast doesn't have any new content. Whatever will I listen to phase? And they're searching around by keywords to find new shows, new content to get them through that lull. The other thing you could do is consider modifying your release schedule. So maybe you continue to release a weekly show if that's your frequency. Let's say you typically release on a Saturday. And because Christmas and New Year's are both on a Saturday, maybe you release on a Friday or a Thursday. Or maybe you release something very special specifically for Christmas and New Year's. Now, as we know in podcasting, there's no hard and fast rules. But I want you to be thinking about this. And this is for all of those ladies out there that have not launched your show yet. You're thinking of launching in 2022. You're aiming for that first week. I want you to be thinking about a couple of things here. Now, if you're working with me on launching your podcast, you probably already know this. We've already had this conversation about if we're going to launch the first week, we got to do it. We've got to get everything ready to go way before then. If you're doing a launch, you should be getting your show approved by Apple and doing all the pre-launch stuff as early as you can. It's just a good idea. Let's say you want your new show to launch the first week of January, which is a super popular time, by the way. Please be advised that the wonderful folks at your hosting company, Libsyn, Buzzsprout, Captivate, wherever you are, probably take some sort of holiday break or have limited staff available. So if you have any tech issues or troubleshooting issues, there could be a delay in getting those support tickets answered. Also, I want you to keep in mind that the wonderful people at Apple Podcasts definitely take a break during the holiday season. And they get slammed with new podcast submissions for approval. Generally, these things only take a day or so, but it's a really popular time to start a show. You add in the holiday season, and it could be a week and a half before you get approved. So if you want your podcast to go live in early January, I would recommend that you start submitting your show for approval by the first week of December, if not sooner. So get your trailer done, get your podcast artwork done, get all the things done submit to Apple, get that approval, and then you can submit to the other podcast directories that you should be in, like Spotify, Stitcher, all those kinds of things. For current podcasters, if you feel that you need a break, I want you to take a break. It's totally okay. But make sure that you tell your listeners that you're going to take a break and when they can expect a new episode, what that episode is going to be about, to get them excited about it, to get them looking forward to that, so that they have something to look forward to in January when you come back with that fresh new episode. Now, the other thing is you could even recommend other shows to check out. You could say something like, hey, I'm going to be taking a break for the holiday season from December 15th through the end of the year for whatever reason. But here are some shows that I've been listening to that I think that you would really love. And then mention some shows for them to check out. Now, this is a really cool community building way because it's going to make sure that your listeners aren't going to forget about you. Because when they do go to check those shows out, they're going to think about you, recommending them, and be grateful for you when they discover and love that particular new show. And as podcasters, we need to support each other. As women, we need to support each other. We don't have to be competition for one another because we all bring something different to the table. We all have different life experiences, and our shows are all a little bit different. They may be talking about the same topic, but they're all a little bit different. So let's support each other in that. So if you decide to republish an episode from your archives over, let's say, the last 2 weeks of the year, the last 2 episodes of the year, because you want to have a little bit of a break. Okay. Now, I have some mixed feelings about this, y'all. If you're going to republish an episode, no matter when it is, record a new intro and outro. Okay? And here's where I think I'm going to get into some unpopular opinions, but that's nothing new, right? I'm sure I'm going to get notes on this one, y'all. Okay, so if you have at least, let's say, 60 to 75 episodes, using an older episode as a rebroadcast is fine. If you do decide to go down the rebroadcast route, just make sure it's clear and it makes sense to republish it content-wise. Also, don't republish something that you've done in the last 12 months. One thing that my friends over at Storytellers Live does, now they do this over the summer for their summer break. And oh, by the way, they're going to be in the podcast next month. I'm so excited to have them. I absolutely love Robin and Katie and Lindy. Now, what they do is they have their audience vote on their absolute favorites, and then they republish those fan favorites. They record new intros and outros, generally speaking. They rebroadcast them. And I absolutely love that because you're going to your audience, you're asking, hey, what would you like to listen to? We're going to be taking a little bit of a break, so what would you like to listen to during that time? I think that's a fabulous idea. Now, if you're a relatively new podcaster, let's say less than 25 episodes, I would really skip this option of going into the archives altogether. Do a shorter episode, a special Christmas or New Year's episode, something of that nature. I know we're all busy during the holiday season, and so just a couple of thoughts or reminders. I don't want the holiday season to stress you out even more than it already does. So don't let it stress you out about your podcast. I don't want it to send you into some sort of an existential crisis about it. Your show still matters. It's still important, but it's not the end-all be-all if you take a break for 2 episodes. And if your numbers do go down during the holidays, I don't want you to panic. It's totally fine. Don't live and die by the numbers. Your numbers are going to go up. They're going to go down. It's just the nature of podcasting. You always want to keep an eye on your numbers because if something really is going wrong, you want to try and get in and fix that. But they are going to go up and they are going to go down. The other thing is save your really good interviews for the new year. I want you to think consciously about what you want your first episode of the year to be. Don't overthink it, but just think consciously about it. Like, what would be a good first episode to kick off the new year? Because 2020 and 2021 were not the best, so I have high hopes for 2022. I mean, don't we all, right? The other thing, and this is the most important thing for me that I wish for you, is I want you to prioritize your own self-care. Because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, not podcasts and download numbers and subscriber counts or any of these other things. If you want to take a break, if you need to take a break, take a break. Your audience will understand that. And you're not going to lose as many subscribers as you think, as long as you keep them in the know. The other thing is the energy that is available to you at this time during the holiday season. Be creative with that. Find other ways to do things. If you normally do the longer episodes, do the shorter episodes. Now, we're almost out of time here, but I just wanted to mention that I would absolutely love it if you would rate and review the podcast if you haven't already done so. If you have, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I absolutely love reading them, and I read each and every one of them. If you could share this episode with 2 friends, because the more you guys leave reviews and share about the show, the more it helps others find out about the Creative Cast. And the reason I do this show is to help others learn more about podcasting and to have their own show, to spread God's word and not let all the tech and inexperience get in their way. Oh, and I almost forgot. Make sure that you keep an eye out in your inbox because there's going to be something arriving there very, very soon for each and every one of you. Now, if you're not on the email list, I highly suggest you do. All you got to do is go to TammyMunsonCreative.com. Up at the top of the page, and put your name and your email address in. It'll get y'all connected. You'll even receive a free gift right then and there because something very cool is coming in the next week or so. Definitely want to check that out. Now, ladies, I believe in each and every one of you. Y'all are my heroes because I believe that inexperience, production fatigue, and intimidating tech shouldn't hold you back, especially from accomplishing your goals and achieving your dreams. So why don't we walk through this journey together so we can spend less time worrying about the details, more time spreading your message and God's word. Now, I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you next Monday. Bye, y'all.